Hey, it's your girl Katrina. So we got to get right into Traitors from this past week. We all saw Krista was murdered, so I think we know she was murdered because she was suspicious of Eric. Okay, so there's a couple of things I need to get into where this past week is concerned. First, let's talk about Rob. I don't know about you guys, but there is a big difference between the way he works with Eric versus the way he worked with Lisa and Candace. Okay, he had no problem backstabbing Lisa and Candace when it came down to it, but he seems to be very protective of Eric. Why might you ask? I don't think this has anything to do with sexism, which some people are probably thinking. I think this is all about control, right? Because if you think about it, Lisa and Candace had a very different personality from Eric. Lisa and Candace were very outspoken, strong women, right? Obviously, it's harder to control people like that. And not only that, they are more of a contender in the game. Whereas with Eric, he seems to have no brain, right? He has no thoughts of his own, and Rob is constantly having to lead him and give him the play-by-play. So I think, if anything, Rob is protective of Eric because he knows he can control Eric, and he needs Eric to make it to the end of the game, okay? So that's where I really think of it all, right? Finally, she's starting to wake up and see that maybe Rob is a traitor after all. And when it's right, the answer was in her face all this time. So what does she do? She goes and talks to Johnny about it, and she convinces Natalie, okay? She convinces Natalie on board. And of course, she mentions the same thing tomorrow. But here's where it gets tricky. At the round table, Natalie is the one that comes forward with the suspicions about Rob. And instead of Tara and Johnny backing her up, they're like, well, I don't know, this and that, this and that. So I had a couple of feelings about Tara. Because on the one hand, I'm like, girl, stand on business. Why do you keep saying you don't know anymore? Like, in your heart is Rob, right? So why not just stand on business and say what you have to say at the round table and back Natalie up? But here's where I'm really thinking. Because if you notice, there was a couple of times throughout the episode where she questioned whether or not this was the best time to go after Rob, because Rob had the dagger. He had 2 votes, right? So you do have to think about the numbers of it all, right? Is it possible that Tara sacrificed Natalie to make sure they get Rob in the finale, right? Because if you think about it, it's possible that if her and Johnny would have spoken up, they could have gotten Mark on their side. But that would have split the vote. They would have been 4 even. So then the question is, how is the deciding vote going to go? Was Rob really going to get ousted out or not? So maybe they thought it was a safer play for them to let Natalie be sacrificed and catch him in the finale where he doesn't have a dagger, right? Because here are my suspicions about what I think is going to happen next week. I think, and I could be wrong, obviously we don't know what happened yet, but I think it's possible that Mara is the one that got voted out. Granted, Mara is Rob's biggest ally, but she's also the one that makes them the least suspicious, right? Because at the round table, people start to suspect Rob. Well, at least now what came out that Rob, has some suspicions, right? So if she's killed, people are going to think twice about whether or not Rob was behind it, right? So I think it's possible that they did go ahead and kill Mara. But here's what Rob doesn't realize. Tara and Johnny know it's him. Because even after the round table, Johnny was like, it's absolutely him. And not only does he know it's him, they also discussed the fact that Eric is probably in cahoots with Rob, right? So if Mara is out the way, that means it's a good chance that they can take the other 2 out, because now they can easily convince Mark that both of them, both Rob and Eric, are in on it together, which means that they have a good chance of losing. So it's possible that this is all strategy play, and Tara was just looking at the numbers and saying, you know what, we don't have the numbers to take him out now. And if we don't have the numbers and lose, I'm on his radar, right? Because I'm on his radar because I'm suspecting him. So it's possible that's why she went that way. And I don't think people were really thinking about that. But here's the biggest mistake that people are making about this game. They don't know how to separate friendship from strategy. Being friends with somebody has no bearing on whether or not you're a traitor, right? Because at the end of the day, we know the host is the one who chose the traitors. So you can't go into this game 100% blindly trusting people. Like Mara, for example. She keeps saying, well, Rob can't be the traitor because, we've been friends from the beginning. None of that matters. It's a game. But she refuses to acknowledge that Rob could very well, be a traitor. She refuses. And the thing that got me about Mara is that when Tara and Natalie are telling Mara about the suspicions of Rob, what does she do with that information? She goes right back in the car with Rob and tells the rest of the group, they're suspecting him. That's the other problem with this game, right? You don't know who's a traitor. So you have to be careful about making sure you're telling people all of your thoughts, because you could very well be talking to the traitor. So now you're giving the traitor heads up on how to act when it comes down to the round table. So you got to be a little bit mindful about this stuff. And if she does get killed, she deserves it because she's dumb. It's like, girl, why can't you consider all of the possibilities? You being friends with him has nothing to do with this game, period. It's a game. You have to think strategy. Even Rob was like, I feel bad, but it's a game. But I see mighty funny. He didn't feel bad when it came down for Lisa and Candace, though. He feel bad about Mara, but not them two. But okay, we'll let that go. So, how do we think this is going to end? Do we think that Rob and Eric are going to make it to the end? I don't know. I think if my strategy, if what I'm suggesting is right, I think it's a good chance that Tara and Johnny can take them out. Or I don't know how many more episodes it's going to be. Or it's also possible that maybe Eric gets taken out first. Because they all had agreed that Eric is possibly, it's his own fault, right? Because you sit there quiet throughout the game. Like, you got to act like you strategizing like everybody else. Like, throw something out there, make up something, do something. And the fact that he's so cautious now is making people suspicious. So Eric got to get his head out of his ass. Like, come on now. Get into the game. So it's possible that either they do go, Tara, Johnny, and Mark do go against him. And it's also possible that Eric might be the one that goes before Rob. Because like I said, this is my first season watching this. I don't know how many more episodes it's going to be. But it's going to be interesting. So, especially with Natalie gone now. So, and then I guess we have to consider, okay, if it's not Mara, who else was murdered? Who else could have been murdered? Would he have murdered? I don't know. I just lean towards them. But if he murdered Mark, I guess we have to consider the possibilities, right? Because if he murdered Mark, then where does that leave the rest of the people? They would, I don't know. I think that puts Tara and Johnny at a disadvantage if Mark is the one that goes home. Because like I said, Mara is so diehard for Rob. I think she's convinced about Eric, but not necessarily Rob. So they're going to have to do a lot of work to convince Mara that Rob is the traitor. So it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. So we have to think about all the possibilities. Because like if it's Tara or Johnny that goes out, then I don't know. I think they still might have a chance. So we'll see. All right. Well, if you like this content, remember to like and subscribe for more goodies.